What's good, sports fans? Are you ready to elevate your live entertainment experience? Well, let me introduce you to SeatGeek, an amazing platform that connects you to your favorite events while saving you money. With SeatGeek, you can easily find tickets for sports games, concerts, and so much more, all in one place. The interface is user-friendly, making it simple to browse and compare prices. And one of the best features is the interactive seating chart. You can see exactly where you'll be sitting and how much you'll be spending, ensuring you get the best value for your money. But here's the best part. Check this out. By using my promo code, ChalkItUpSports, you can enjoy a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. That's right, $20 off your first SeatGeek order. Imagine catching that thrilling game or concert without breaking the bank. It's a win-win situation. Plus, you'll be a part of a community of fans who eat, sleep, and breathe live events just as much as you do. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description to download the SeatGeek app today. And don't forget to use my promo code ChalkItUpSports for a one-time $20 discount on your first SeatGeek order. Get excited. Now let's get back to the show. Yo, what's good? This is your boy, Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on your dose, a special dose of Chalk It Up Sports via the Chalk It Up Network, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Y'all know the vibes, you know the energy, y'all know who I be. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are also subscribed to the channel. You will miss all this dope content. You will miss all this illustrious energy if you guys don't subscribe, if you guys don't smash that like button. You guys got to make sure you're engaged. You got to make sure you're locked in. That's how we grow this thing. So I appreciate you guys for always showing up for your boy. It means a lot to me, goes a long way. Obviously, this live stream was scheduled for 2 o'clock. I didn't get here until about 2:10 Central Time. For some of you guys, it may be 3:10. Or 3 o'clock, you guys were expecting me. My bad. Had to get my dog sorted out. Sometimes he can be demanding, and I had to make sure he was set up with the snacks and put on his favorite shows. You know what I mean? Things like that. So, nonetheless, man, make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are locked in. We got some things to discuss, man. We're going through a little bit of a quiet period right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. They made a lot of moves last week, bringing in a lot of players on one-year deals, right? And they lost a lot of players last week as well. I know a lot of you have really been upset about some of those moves that the Eagles have made or didn't make, however you want to slice it for yourself. But I got to remind you guys, this Eagles offseason so far, it's telling a pretty clear story. And before we get into that, want to get some shout outs out the way, man. Got to give a shout out to a bunch of my members who are here right now. Jinx Wolf, S. Blunt, Alex, what's going on? Chaotic Green, Private McClunky, Ivan Mims. Shout out to all you guys, man. I appreciate you guys for locking in. Ty Banks Live, Lady Carter, Pharaoh, KGK, Sweet Chin Music, Jada Legend Sports, D. Aldridge. Thank you. Lady Carter. Thank you. Mark Kelly Green, thank you. All right. So, yeah, when I think about this Eagles offseason, because I've had some time to really sit with it over the course of the weekend. Me and my man, Pro Fan Talk, my man, Coach Marcus from Pro Fan Talk, we had a conversation yesterday on the channel. Hope you guys had a chance to go check that out. Make sure you go do that. And also make sure you guys are subscribed to him as well. He does great work over there at Pro Fan Talk. But we had a lot of conversations about free agency, the players they brought in, potential position battles, players that were lost, the financial constraints the Philadelphia Eagles are under. We got into a lot of that stuff. But here's the thing, you guys. I think this offseason is going a little bit better than people want to give it credit for. I also think this offseason is really telling a story about where the Philadelphia Eagles are going with their roster. If you notice, a lot of the guys that they moved off of, or some of the guys they moved off of, or that they're trying to move off of, they're either approaching 30 or already 30. And we saw the first signs of the youth movement last season, right? James Bradbury to the bench. Eagles have like 3 rookies on the defense who are putting up quality reps. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jalen Hunt, right? Reed Blankenship is still a relatively young player. CJ was a young veteran. You know what I mean? Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, those guys were young players entering their second, they were in their second and third years respectively. Nolan Smith, same thing. Zack Baun was like a young veteran, right? But for the most part, on that defense, the oldest guys on that defense was Brandon Graham and Darius Slade. Those guys were 34 and up. And then after that, you had guys that were pretty much 29 and younger. I think Dallas Goedert is 30 now, right? Lane Johnson, I think Lane Johnson's 33, something like that. Let me double check that. Lane Johnson is 34. He's 34, right? But on the defense in particular, it was really Darius Slade and Brandon Graham. Those were your OGs, right? But other than that, everybody else was pretty young, like 27, 28 and younger. And it seems like they're trying to maintain that theme as much as they possibly can. I think the oldest free agent they brought in was Adoree Jackson. I think Adoree Jackson's 29, right? Adoree Jackson is 29. He's 29. He'll be 30 on September 18th. I think that'll be week 2 or week 3 in the NFL season, something like that. Maybe week 2. But regardless, depending if BG comes back, the oldest person on that defense will be Adoree Jackson at age 30. Everybody else is pretty much 27, 28 or younger. Most of those guys are 23, 24, 25. And then you think about the guys they brought in defensively. Josh Uche is 26. He'll be 27 when the season starts. And then everybody else is under the age of 25 or under the age of 26. And then they're going to go into this draft class and they're going to draft more young guys in their early 20s. So the theme of this offseason has been youth. It's been youth. That's been the theme. Betting on youth, evaluating, drafting, and developing, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Because although Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, and Isaiah Rodgers also, they weren't old players, but they were players that were due to get some pretty decent money, especially Milton and Sweat. And the Philadelphia Eagles felt like they didn't want to tie up that money there. And I understand that, especially when you feel like you can replace those guys and especially get younger while you do it. And if you trust your coaching staff, Vic Fangio, you trust Clint Hurt on the D-line, you trust Jeremiah Washburn with those edge rushers, you trust Christian Parker, Roy Anderson, and Joe Casper with the DBs. You trust Bobby King with your linebackers, right? When you got guys when you have guys on the coaching staff that you trust to develop the talent, that's when you get the most out of it. Remember, in 2023, we had a lot of young guys on this team, but we didn't play them that much. And I'm going to get to all your super chats, you guys. Trust me, I'm going to get to all the super chats. We didn't play them that much in 2023. And B, I don't think we had the coaching staff in place to be able to develop said talent. Hence why we didn't get much out of Nolan Smith. Hence why, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis were relying a lot on athleticism. Right? Jalen Carter came in with the tools he had. Jordan Davis, he had a better season than the rookie season, but conditioning was a problem for everybody, really, but especially on the defensive line. They weren't playing young guys. They didn't have a deep enough rotation. It was just a mess. It was a mess. And you weren't getting much, if anything, out of that linebacker room. We were piecemealing the linebacker room, it seemed like, every few weeks. Nicholas Morrow, Shaq Leonard, Nakobe Dean, if he was healthy, right? It just seemed like that linebacker room was all over the place. So then you bring in Vic Fangio, you draft better, you essentially get rid of that old defensive staff, you get rid of Sean Desai, you get rid of Matt Patricia, you get rid of DK McDonald with the DBs, you get rid of a lot of those guys on defense, and you just bring in Vic Fangio and allow him to build out his defensive staff. You kept certain people, but for the most part, you gutted that staff on defense. And now you replace those old guys, Sean Desai and his crew, you replace those guys with guys that can actually teach, guys that have a track record of developing. And when you see it take shape the way it did in 2024, and it leads to a Super Bowl victory, how can you be surprised, rather, if Howie Roseman decides to move on from guys who want to get paid and decides to bet on youth? Because he trusts his farm system. He trusts the coaches he has in the building to be able to get the most out of players. He trusts the guys he has in the building to be able to get the most out of these free agents that are, 26 going on 27. He trusts that. It's kind of hard to bet against that when you've seen what they've been able to do with the rookie talent. Now, granted, it's important to curb expectations with, various guys that we brought in. We have to curb our expectations with Harrison Bryant and Kylan Granton, the two tight ends we brought in. We have to curb our expectations when it comes to Josh Uche, right? We know Josh Uche had that singular double-digit sack season, but one can argue that was more of an outlier in comparison to what he's done the rest of his career. But I trust that whatever these guys have left, Adoree Jackson, right? Patrick Johnson, we brought him back as well on the edge. We drafted him. We decided to bring him back. I trust that Vic Fangio, along with the rest of his coaching staff, has the capabilities, has the tools to be able to bring out the most out of whatever these guys have left. Whatever these guys may have on defense in particular, right? I trust that. I genuinely do. That's not blind faith. That's not blind support. That's me looking at the financials the Philadelphia Eagles have dealt with or are dealing with, thinking about the decisions they made leading up to this point, how they got to this point, the success they've been able to have based off said decisions. How can I not trust that they don't have? How can I trust that they don't have the best interest of this team? How can I not trust that? Let me read some of your comments real quick. Marley Coldbird says we don't have to curb our expectations because we don't expect much out of them. If they're able to perform, they would be on the field. If not, they would get cut. Well, speak for yourself, Marley. Speak for yourself. The reality is, when you bring a guy in, you expect something out of it. You expect something. Speak for yourself. The reality is, they brought in Josh Uche to keep Jalen Hurts honest. That's a fact. They brought in Josh Uche to keep Jalen Hurts honest. They brought in Adoree Jackson to keep Kelee Ringo honest. They brought in, who else? They brought back Patrick Johnson to keep those edge rushers honest. So when it comes to these free agents, sure, you ultimately don't know what they're going to provide. You don't know. Just how we didn't know Zack Baun would be what he would be. We ultimately didn't know what Quinyon and Cooper Jean would give us, no matter what their draft stock said. We ultimately didn't know. Who else? That goes for who else we brought in via free agency? I can't quite remember, but regardless, when you bring in people, you're trying to fortify your roster leading up to the draft. When you bring in these guys, obviously you expect them to compete, and you want your signing to your signing to show value, basically, right? You want your signing to show value, because whether you want to accept it or not, Marley, some people have expectations, some people don't. Based off of the way people have reacted to the offseason, their expectations are fairly high. They're fairly high. Because when you lose Josh Sweat, when you lose Milton Williams, you lose CJ, right? Sidney Brown, there's expectations for him. Keely Ringo, there are expectations for him. When you lose guys like CJ, Darius Slay, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Isaiah Rodgers, when you lose guys like that, and you try to and you potentially may lose Dallas Goedert, right? The reality is you're trying or hoping that your free agent signings, your budget free agent signings, can help the cream rise to the top, whether they're the ones involved or not, whether they make the roster or not. You want their presence to help the cream rise to the top. And also it's going to help you, or it's going to prevent you from reaching in the draft, because you don't want to draft off of need. That's where a lot of teams go wrong, drafting off of need instead of drafting the best talent that's in front of you. So whether we want to accept it or not, or whether we're lying to ourselves or not, there are people who have expectations. We all look at the highlights. We all look at the film. We all look at it. We all watch it. Everyone has some level of expectations. Simple as that. And I don't know what curving expectation, I don't know if you really know what it means. If you don't expect much, you're already curving your expectations. You're doing that. I hope you understand what you're saying, Marley. You say we don't have to curve our expectations, but you also say we don't expect much. That's by definition curving your expectations. You're keeping your expectations at bay. You're not allowing your expectations to supersede the reality. That's curving your expectations. That's exactly what you're doing, whether you realize it or not. Let's get to another one. Eagles Dynasty. He says, this Eagles team is talented and loaded with stars, just like the 49ers were the past few years. The difference is the Eagles have a pipeline of young players. That's a very good point, Eagles Dynasty. That's a very good point. I think where the 49ers went wrong is that they were relying too heavily on their stars, and they weren't doing a good enough job building a foundation of young players that can step in and take that next step. And I think that's why they're offloading a lot of guys. And look, they're going to have to do a lot of drafting. They're going to have to draft really well. Maybe they're offloading guys because they believe some guys can step up. They traded Deebo Samuel. They still got Brandon Ayuk, but they traded Deebo Samuel. One of the reasons they probably did that is because they still got Ricky Pearsall, right? A guy that they think can take that next step. They're betting on their young talent, but I think defensively is where they take their biggest hit. I think defensively is where they're going to take their biggest hit. But I think your overall point is right, though. I think that I do agree. I don't think they did a good enough job at making sure they had a strong enough foundation of youth and talent. I do agree with that. And I also think they mishandled some funds. Excuse me. Mike with the super chat. Well, not super chat, but the comment, excuse me. Mike says, do we need another linebacker, or is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. the future? Mike, we do need another linebacker. And that's not saying Jeremiah Trotter Jr. can't play. That's not saying that Kobe Dean can't play. They don't really have much there. At that linebacker spot. just from a personnel standpoint. At linebacker, you have Zack Baun, Nakobe Dean, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., this guy named Dallas Gant, and you have Ben Van Sumeren, who's a fullback / linebacker, but they have him listed as a fullback. But on some of these depth charts, they have him listed as a linebacker. Regardless, though, they need more from that linebacker position. Zack Baun is obviously going to be ready. Nakobe Dean, he's likely going to start the season on the PUP list. We don't know what Jeremiah Trotter can be over the course of a season. And you just overall lack depth at that position. You lack depth. I think that's the cold, hard reality. You lack depth at that position. And I don't think that's an indictment on Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I think the Eagles not signing a linebacker in free agency thus far kind of tells you that they have some faith in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to take that next step. I think them not bringing back Oren Burks, which was probably the cheapest contract they could have brought back, seeing what he got from Cincinnati. I think not bringing back Oren Burks tells you a lot about how they feel regarding Jeremiah Trotter Jr. But that's not to say they won't draft another linebacker. I think they will draft a linebacker, maybe in the mid to late rounds. It won't be early. But I think they do draft another linebacker, and I do think we need another linebacker. But I also believe they have faith in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. to take that next step. Because, again, we don't know what Nakobe Dean is going to be when he comes back. We don't know. Excuse me. Nakobe has battled some injuries in his career, and this is probably the most serious he's dealt with on the NFL level. I think he ruptured or tore his patella tendon. That's not going to be easy to bounce back from. And it happened in the playoffs. So, again, we may not see him until maybe November. We may not see Nakobe until November, late October. And if Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is playing very well next to Zack Baun and the defense is humming, who's to say they put Jeremiah Trotter back on the bench and put Nakobe Dean? Who's to say that they do that? You know what I mean? Nakobe Dean is in a precarious situation right now. He is. Trotter Jr. is young. He's on a rookie deal. That rookie deal gives the Eagles flexibility. Nakobe Dean is entering the final year of his contract. He's going to be looking for some kind of contract on Philadelphia Eagles. Maybe the Eagles give him a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, whatever it may be. But I do think the Eagles need another linebacker for depth for sure. Also, another linebacker just to challenge Trotter. Like, there's no one on this. There's nobody at linebacker that's going to really challenge Trotter. Ben Van Sumeren won't. And again, I understand he was listed as a fullback when they re-signed him, but he still has linebacker capabilities. But Ben Van Sumeren won't challenge him. This guy named Dallas Gant on the roster, he won't challenge him. So they're going to have to draft a linebacker, maybe two, to challenge and keep Trotter Jr. on his toes. MJS, he says Howie does a great job preparing this roster for the draft. The last 4 drafts have been really great for this team. It has. And you know, when you make the right free agent calls prior to the draft, it prevents you from reaching. You see, a lot of people only pay attention to the splash moves in free agency. And I think that's a trick. I think that's a trick. You know, we've seen a lot of roster building in our time watching football. We've seen teams spend a lot of money in free agency, have we not, you guys? We've seen teams spend a lot of money and they don't get the return on the investment because they probably put the money in the wrong places. They probably went for the big name instead of going for the right name, the right player. It's easy to get wrapped up in that. That's why I brought up the Denzel quote, the Denzel Washington quote on Twitter. That's why I brought it up. Eagles fans, do not confuse movement with progress. Do not confuse movement with progress. Just because you see your opponents making these big, hefty, splashy moves in free agency and the Eagles aren't, doesn't mean that they're trending in the right direction or they're automatically going to get better. It doesn't always work that way. There's fit, there's coaching, there's execution, there's chemistry, there's trust, there's health, right? There's so much that goes into it, right? Do not confuse movement with progress. These other organizations, these other teams still have a lot of ground to cover when it comes to catching up with the Philadelphia Eagles. So yes, Howie Roseman does an amazing job with his budget moves, right? He makes enough of them. And even if you make 5 budget signings and 2 of them hit, that's a success in the NFL. It's like baseball. It's like baseball, right? I think in the MLB, they always say if you hit, what is it, 25% of the time, if you have a batting average of .250, you're almost like guaranteed to make the Hall of Fame or whatever that is. What is the number? You know, where my baseball fans at? What's the batting average where they say if you average this batting average for your career, you're pretty much guaranteed the Hall of Fame? What is it? Is it 300 or is it 250? What is it? Where my baseball fans at? 300. Thank you, MJ. Yes, 300. 300. Thank you. Bam, man. Thank you. So my point is, right, I kind of treat roster building and the draft like baseball a little bit. Thank you, Pharaoh. KGK, thank you. 300. In the MLB, if you bat 300 for your career, you're pretty much guaranteed for the Hall of Fame. Pretty much. Think about that. That's basically hitting 3 pitches out of 10. 3 pitches out of 10. That doesn't sound like a good average. But when you think about it in terms of value and what 3 hits out of 10 can do in the context of a draft class, that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. So my point is, if Howie Roseman drafts 7 guys, and let's just say 3 of them hit, what is that? 3 divided by 7, that's 40. That's 43%. It's 428 or 429, however you want to round up. But basically, that's 43% on average. If Howie Roseman is able to draft 7 players this year, or if he decides, because he will be able to, if he decides to draft 7 players and 3 of them become starting level players, if they hit, that's a successful draft class. Would you guys agree with that? Let me ask you guys. Would you guys agree with that? If Howie Roseman decides to draft 7 players and 3 of them hit, 3 of them become starters or starting level, 2 of them become rotational guys, and the other 2 are just practice squad. I think that's a successful draft class, right? Would you guys agree with that? My dad is in the building. He says 21 picks in the next 2 years. Howie's the man. He rules the draft picks. Shout out to my dad. I appreciate him. He's right. He's right about that. 20 plus draft picks, ridiculous. Monty says, I agree. Lance Elliott says, hell yes, that's a successful draft. Bandman says, yup. Antonio Holmes says, yes. KGK says, yup. Tiffany says, I agree. Mike gave me a thumbs up. Antonio Holmes says, we have 8 picks. 8. You know what I mean? K. Orty says, that's successful. MJS says, plus we get comps for these guys who left. Exactly. I think right now we're at 21 or 22 draft picks. I think my dad just said it. 21 draft picks right now because we just got that one for we just got that additional one from Mekhi Becton. So yeah, we got 8 picks this year, right? 8. out of those 8 draft picks, if 2 of them become starters, hypothetically, right? If 2 of them become starters, 3 of them become rotational guys, and the other 3 become just practice squad or just depth players, that's success. That's success. That's a very successful draft class. Seriously. So let's think about the previous draft class, right? Let's think about the one we just got out of. Let's think about that one. Let's think about the previous draft class we just got out of. So they drafted Quinyon Mitchell. So hold on, wait, real quick. They drafted how many players? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. They drafted 9 players in 2024. 9. You drafted Quinyon Mitchell, starter. Cooper DeJean, starter. Jalen Hunt, he was a rotational in 2024. But he made an impact, rotational. Will Shipley, your third string running back. Anaya Smith, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Trevor Keegan, Johnny Wilson, Dylan McMahon. Dylan McMahon ended up getting cut. So, out of those 9 picks, you drafted 2 for sure starters. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. At best, you drafted a potential starter in Jalen Hunt. At worst, a rotational edge. You drafted Will Shipley, who's shown flashes even in the playoffs. You drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who's put up good reps. Very good on special teams. Very good on special teams right now. And is going to be competing for a starting role. You drafted Trevor Keegan. Who's going to be likely a rotational guard. He will compete, but he will be a rotational guard. Then that leaves Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, Dylan McMahon. Not a bad draft class. Trot and Shipley, great special teamers. Thank you, Antonio Holmes. Thank you. Trotter Jr. and Shipley, great special teams players. Will Shipley forced a turnover in the playoffs and scored a touchdown. You know what I mean? So, it's, when you lose guys, when you lose players, you got to be smart on how you replace that talent. Johnny Wilson did play a lot of snaps. He did. Now, he didn't make the biggest impact, but he did play a lot of snaps. He got to hold on to that damn ball. Y'all right about that. Johnny Wilson, man, hang around the jug machine, bro, for real. Let's see here. None says the fans will never forgive you for giving the people's winning team away, no matter what. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Oh, let me get these super chats. Sorry, y'all. My bad. Let me get these super chats. Real Talk with G gifted 5 Chuck It Up Network memberships. Hey, thank you, G. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for the support, Real Talk with G. I appreciate that, my man. Jay the Legend Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Jay says, do you think we're going to get 2 edge rushers in the draft? Interesting question. You know what's so funny? I wouldn't be surprised to see Howie Roseman do that. I wouldn't be surprised. Because hypothetically, Josh Uche may not work out. He may not work out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Howie Roseman get 2 edge rushers in this draft. We got as many draft picks as we want. We got 8 of them. And we could get more depending if we trade back from the 32nd overall pick. We could get more. So, Jay, you may be onto something. Because as of right now, your edge rushers are thus. You have, as of right now, your edge rushers are Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, Patrick Johnson, KJ Henry, Jalen Hunt, Josh Uche, Ochon Mathis. Now, some of those guys obviously are going to be practice squad guys. We'll see if they even make the roster. But for the most part, as far as our relevant guys, you have Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, Jalen Hunt, Josh Uche, and Patrick Johnson, right? That's 5 guys that are relevant. We can actually break that down too, honestly, as far as guys that we know or guys that we think will make the roster by default. Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff, Jalen Hunt. Other than that, everybody else's spot is not safe. So to your point, Jay, I don't put it past the Eagles drafting 2 edge rushers. I don't. Because the competition is going to be crazy. Now, granted, you got like 7 of them on the roster right now. You got like 7 of them. You got like 7 of them on the roster right now. But grabbing another edge rusher, grabbing 2, I don't put it past Howie at all. Because I think you want to continue to push. You want to continue to push Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith. Now, granted, Nolan Smith is he's self-motivated. Nolan Smith is self-motivated. He doesn't need much push. He's going to always give 150%. And I don't doubt Jalen Hunt is going to bring that same intensity. It's funny, drafting Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt have similar mentalities in terms of how they approach the game. They're both relentless. They're both very exciting players in terms of their personalities. They're guys that play the game with the ferociousness that can't be matched. It would be really interesting to see what the next step for Jalen Hunt looks like, because Jalen Hunt, I love his traits, has decent size for the position. You know, Nolan, he's considered undersized, but Nolan is so powerful, so fast, so violent. Man, Nolan continues to do what he does, and then Jalen Hunt takes that next step, because Jalen Hunt, I'm really excited about what he's going to become. He's gotten better every single week. Seriously. Jalen Hunt got better every single week. And then when BG got hurt and his snap count really jumped, man, Jalen Hunt's really exciting to think about. Green Wingman with the super chat. Thank you, my friend. He says, what free agents do you believe have a real shot at making the roster? Also, I am not against the youth movement, but if they don't limit their pool of players just due to age, but have they don't limit their pool. I think I get what you're trying to say here. To your first question, what free agents do I believe have a real shot at making the roster? I'm going to say, let me look at the list real quick. All right, so let me read them all off to you real quick. I'm going to read them all off, all right? Edge rusher, Patrick Johnson. Kick returner, Avery Williams. Long snapper, Charlie Hewlett. Tight end, Kylan Granson. Guard, Kenyon Green. Running back, A.J. Dillon. Cornerback, Adoree Jackson. Edge, Josh Uche. Tight end, Harrison Bryant. All right, so I think A.J. Dillon makes the roster. I think Adoree Jackson makes the roster. I think the tight ends are tough. I will admit the tight ends are tough. But if I had to choose one, okay, so I'll say A.J. Dillon, Adoree Jackson, Harrison Bryant, and I do think Uche makes his roster. I do. I think Josh Uche makes his roster. But as far as limiting their pool of players as far as age, I mean, when guys get to a certain point in their careers, eventually, for the most part, you know what they are. And if you think about it, it's not that they're just so again, think about who they brought in, right? There's no one over the age of 28. I'm not mad at that logic. I'm not mad at that. And what I'm saying is, like, again, Josh Uche, he's not young, but he's not old either. These tight ends, Kylan Granson and Harrison Bryant, not young, but they're not old either. A.J. Dillon, not young, but not old either. They're in that sweet spot. They're in that spot where they can turn a corner either in their career, be it for the better or be it for the worse. So the Eagles are assuming or hoping that they can help them turn that corner for the better. Patrick Johnson, not an old player, but not a young player either. So I think the Eagles are trying to teeter that line of age and experience while still trying to bring in players that maybe has an upside. And again, I think their ultimate goal here is to stimulate competition, help the cream rise to the top, solidify your roster, and add some depth pieces to your roster so you're not reaching in the draft. I think that's really one of the main reasons as well. Because all the moves, all the free agents they brought in, I think they're going to draft those exact positions. I really do. The Eagles brought in 2 edge rushers and Patrick Johnson and Josh Uche. I think the Eagles are going to draft an edge rusher. The Eagles signed 2 tight ends, Kylan Granson and Harrison Bryant. I think the Eagles are going to draft another tight end. The Eagles brought in cornerback Adoree Jackson. I think the Eagles are going to draft another corner, and I also think they're going to draft a safety. Guard Quinyon Green. I think the Eagles are going to draft another offensive lineman. You know, that's what I think. Shoot, even running back A.J. Dillon. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles draft a running back later on in the draft. So that's what I think the Eagles, I think those exact positions that we saw them bring in for agency, I think they're going to draft those same positions. In addition, they're going to draft safety as well. Alex says, I think Howie's going best player available. Absolutely. Howie's definitely going best player available. Absolutely. He doesn't have, and that's why the moves are what they are in free agency. So he can go best available. So he doesn't have to draft for need. Right? You don't want to draft for need. You want to draft the best player that you can get your hands on. Alex also had a super chat. Thank you, Alex. He says, this is what our fan base needs to understand, how we will rotate players on the team while keeping the core guys as long as they're making playoff runs. For example, look at what the Pats did for 20 years. Exactly, Alex, exactly. You have your core players that you build your roster around. You continue to keep your difference makers on the roster. And then guys that you deem as replaceable, guys that you know you can coach up, you rotate that. That's what it's going to be. If you want to sustain success, we've seen the Patriots do it. You feel what I'm saying? We've seen the Chiefs do it. They have their core guys on this roster, and then they kind of shuffle out some pieces here and there. On defense, I think the core guys that they're going to build around for the foreseeable future is going to be Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Nolan Smith. I think those are the 4 core players that the Eagles will build around for the foreseeable future. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. That's not to say Jalen Hunt won't be able to take a next step in his career and be better. That's not to say Jordan Davis won't be on his roster if he has reasonable contracts, right? I'm not trying to exclude Zack Baun, but he's on a 3-year deal, and we'll see if the Eagles even extend him beyond that, right? I'm not trying to exclude Reed Blankenship, but I don't put Reed Blankenship's value in the same category as Quinyon or Coop or even Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith. I don't. I think Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean are the core 4 on defense. Those are the core 4 guys. And everybody else they can build around. Because also, peep this, right? Peep this. Let's just say Jalen Hunt becomes everything we expect. An effective edge rusher, averages between 8 to 10 sacks a season, 8 to 11 sacks a season. You think he's not going to want to get paid when his contract is up? You think he's not going to get paid? So those situations happen, and they happen more often than people want to admit. The Eagles are always going to make sure the money is right for Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Nolan Smith. As long as they continue to develop the way we expect them to, barring any injuries. We know Nolan is recovering from a torn tricep, so that actually may help that actually may help the Eagles' bargaining power in terms of a contract with him whenever it comes up. Because of Nolan's injury history, even though he is a force, that may help the Eagles leverage in terms of those contract negotiations. But Jalen Hunt, I love that player. But if he continues to develop at the rate we expect, now, we also don't know this. What if Jalen Hunt ends up being better than Nolan Smith? Now I'm spitballing. Now I'm just guessing. I'm speculating. Follow me here. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Jalen Hunt ends up being a more productive player than Nolan Smith, hypothetically. Now we got a conundrum. Now we got a tough conversation that we got to have. You feel what I'm saying? But let's say Nolan, perennial double-digit sack guy. Also, let's just say this. Let's just say Nolan and Jalen Hunt, those two guys average between 7 to 9 sacks, 7 to 10 sacks a season. Maybe we can afford both of them. Maybe. But I think that is a reality we got to think about, though. What if Jalen Hunt ends up being better than Nolan? What if Nolan, what if Nolan can't stay healthy? What if? And Jalen Hunt stays healthy. He's guaranteeing you 8 to 10 sacks a season. Nolan can't stay healthy, but he's guaranteeing you 5 or 6 sacks a season. What decision do you make? Do you try to pay both? But regardless, though, I think as it stands today, the core 4 on defense, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. And Antonio Holmes, you're right. It makes it easier if he can't stay healthy. And look, I don't mean to make you guys nervous. I don't mean to make you guys think too far ahead, but I think it is important that we understand that we're going to see this roster go through its fair share of turnover, especially when you got to pay Jalen Carter top dollar. You're going to have to pay Quinyon Mitchell top dollar. You're going to have to pay Cooper DeJean top dollar. You're going to have to, right? And I know some people say, well, Tone, Quinyon, and Coop, we ain't got to worry about their contract right now. You're right. You don't. You don't. But trust me, the Eagles, they're thinking about Quinyon Mitchell's contract right now. They're thinking about Cooper DeJean's contract right now. They're thinking about Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith's contracts right now. That's why we cleared the runway. That's why we didn't bring back Josh Sweat. That's why we didn't bring back Milton Williams. That's why we didn't bring back Isaiah Rodgers or Darius Slay. That's why we traded CJ, right? That's why we didn't bring back Mekhi Becton. And again, they know who their core guys are. And there's another player that I always overlook when it comes to their money. I feel like I bring it up enough, but maybe we don't talk about it enough as a collective. Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens is entering year 4 of his rookie deal. Cam Jurgens will be a free agent after this season. Do y'all really think Howie Roseman is going to let Cam Jurgens start this season without a contract? Do y'all think Howie Roseman will allow Cam Jurgens to start this season without a contract? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's a contract we don't talk about much because I think we assume that the Eagles and Howie Roseman will get it done. I think that's something we assume. That's what we assume. But Cam Jurgens, I highly doubt he goes into the season without a contract. I highly doubt it. I think you guys are right. You guys are all right. You guys are all right. He's definitely going to get paid for sure. As a matter of fact, let me look at some of these center contracts right now. Let me look at some of these average salaries for these centers. Hold on 1 second, you guys. So, these center contracts, they make some pretty good money. And Cam made the Pro Bowl his first year starting at center, Super Bowl champion. Hey, man. Let's see here. Joe King turned it lip. Oh, man. Thank you for the super chat. They say, I have faith in Sidney Crash Bandicoot Brown. Yeah. I think Sidney Brown is going to be an interesting prospect to watch because he plays the game with a ton of physicality. A ton. But He has to. You can't play at 100 miles per hour the whole time. You got to know when to hit the gas. You got to know when to hit the gas and when to hit the brakes. So Sidney Brown is going to be somebody I'm watching closely as well. Eagles Dynasty says someone needs to have a talk with Jalen Hurts and tell him Tom Brady took pay cuts so New England could sign players. Well, just for the record, Jalen Hurts, although Jalen Hurts may have, I think, the highest, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jalen Hurts has the highest cap hit on the team, right? But to put it in context, for his position, his cap hit is only $21 million. He's not, believe it or not, the Jalen Hurts contract is not the reason why the Hurts contract is not the reason why you can't sign anybody. His cap hit is really not egregious. His cap hit is not egregious. And look, I wouldn't worry about the Hurts contract because, trust me, the Eagles can restructure that shit anytime they want. He's going to get his money regardless. Jalen Hurts has the highest cap hit on the team, and that's $21.8 million. That's a steal for your position. Eagles Dynasty, just to put it in context. Eagles Dynasty also says part of that conversation should also state that Tom Brady also retired as the highest paid player in NFL history. Right. So he got his money. So he ended up getting that money some way, right? He got that money some way, right? You know what I mean? He got that money some way. Somebody gave it to him if he retired the highest paid player in the history of the game. Let me get to these other super chats. Alex back again. He says Vic Fangio's background is linebacker, so that's the position group we should worry the least about on defense, in my opinion. I see what you're saying as far as the developmental piece, right? Because Vic Fangio helped bring the best out of Zack Baun. He helped bring the best out of Nakobe Dean. Who's to say he can't bring the best out of Jeremiah Trotter Jr. or whatever linebacker we do decide to start when the season starts, right? That is going to be something to watch. You bring up a good point. But I also think Jeremiah Trotter Jr., you want him to come in with some kind of fire behind him. And again, you still got Nakobe on the roster, but you're going to need more depth. So I think they will draft another linebacker. Alex says there's a clip of Uche cooking Lane Johnson. Yeah, we played them in 2023, and he had got a good rep on Lane Johnson, right? A good rep, But again, Uche, he's shown flashes in his career. He has. Uche has a good amount of speed. He has some really good speed. We just have to see if he can make it through the Vic Fangio, Clint Hurt, Jeremiah Washburn gauntlet. Let's see if he can carry that over to his time in Philadelphia. But yeah, man, Carol to Green, you bring up a good point. Dak Prescott's cap hit $60 million. $60 million fucking dollars. Now, granted, he just restructured, but he had a cap hit of $60 million. Whereas Jalen is a drop in the bucket compared to that, right? Jalen Hurts' contract, see what they did was they paid him a lot of money up front. They paid him a lot of money up front. A lot of money up front. So they gambled. They gambled. They bet on Jalen Hurts. They gave him a lot of money up front. That's why his cap hits are so low for the position. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you guys all of Jalen Hurts' cap hits, right? Listen to this. Listen to this. I'm going to tell you all of Jalen Hurts' cap hits. Now, granted, his cap hit goes up. His cap hit goes up each and every year because it's a big contract. But when you think about his cap hit in context with the position, it's nuts. So in 2025, his cap hit will be $28.8 million. I'm sorry, $21.8 million. In 2026, Jalen Hurts' contract will be, or his cap hit will be $31.9 million. In 2027, his cap hit will be $42.1 million. And in 2028, his contract will have a 47.5 cap hit. $47.5 million cap hit. So his cap hit does go up each and every year. But when you think about it in the context of his position, his cap hits are very, very manageable. I've given you the cap hits. Matter of fact, I could just show y'all. It'd be easier. Let me show y'all what I'm talking about here. Because Jalen Hurts' cap hits are manageable and allows the Eagles still to do a lot. All right. All right. Can you guys see that? Give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you guys can see that. All right. Can you guys see that? Give me a thumbs up to make sure you guys can see that on the screen. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So let's pull up Jalen Hurts' cap hits, right? So as of right now, in 2025, Jalen Hurts has a $21.8 million cap hit. That only takes up 7.8% of the cap. 7.8% of the cap. In 2026, his cap hit will be $31.9 million. In 2026, that's 10.4% of the cap hit. Still not bad. In 2027, he'll have a $42.1 million cap hit. That's only 12% of your cap. And then, what is this, 2028? Then in 2028, he'll have a $47.5 million cap hit. That's 12.8%. You see, what happened was the Eagles, they were smart enough to pay Jalen Hurts early. They paid him early. They gambled. They bet on him. When they saw him take them to the Super Bowl and almost win it, they bet on it and say, you know what? We're going to bet that this kid can do it again. And we're going to put our money where our mouth is. And lo and behold, Jalen Hurts, 2 seasons later, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP, cashed in. And he's only entering year 2, if I'm not mistaken. because he was drafted in 2019. No, drafted in 2020. So 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. Yeah. He's only entering year 2 of the contract. And also, like Lance Elliott just said, those percentages are based on this season's cap. And it goes up. It goes up. The cap goes up every year, damn near. So when you think about the context, that Hurts contract is really not, it gets better as time goes. It gets better as time goes. So the Hurts contract is really the least of our problems. But that's not to say as they get further along, they may not restructure it a bit. Knowing the Eagles, they're probably going to give him an extension. Knowing the Eagles, because again, he's only entering the second year of this contract. What's stopping the Eagles from giving him another extension after 2026? The Eagles good for that. They good for that. After the 2026 season, Eagles will probably give him an extension, lower that cap hit again. Good money. You know what I mean? You know, as long as Jalen Hurts is the guy that we know him to be, continues to win big games, Super Bowls, whatever. Like in my opinion, personally, maybe all of you don't feel this way. But speaking for myself, I personally believe Jalen Hurts already lived up to his end of the deal. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like Jalen Hurts already lived up to the contract. Super Bowl MVP. I feel like Jalen Hurts lived up to the contract. Me personally. I'm telling you, if every organization that's paying their quarterback $50 million or $50 million plus, if they can get one Super Bowl out of the length of that contract, they're happy. It's a success. This goes back to my baseball analogy, right? This goes back to my baseball analogy. This goes back to my baseball analogy, right? If you give your quarterback a 5-year extension, right? Or a 5-year contract. If you pay your quarterback 5 years, however, don't worry about the amount of money, but a lot of money. If you pay your quarterback a lot of money for 5 years and he delivers on consecutive playoff berths, multiple division titles, and one Super Bowl, what's that average? What's that average? Because I think my man, I think who said it earlier? I think my man MJS said earlier that batting 250 is still a great average in baseball. Now, obviously, batting 300 gets you into the Hall of Fame. If you're batting 250, you're gonna need some home runs with that. But 5-year contract and your quarterback delivers one Super Bowl out of those 5 years, that's a 25% hit rate. I think that's a success. But yeah, of course, Eagles dynasty, of course. Eagles dynasty, of course. Definitely want to get 5 of them. You know what I mean? Definitely want to get more. We're not going to sugarcoat that, right? We definitely want more. You know, we're not satisfied with just 2 Super Bowls, right? We're not satisfied. We definitely want more. But in the context of when you pay a guy and why you pay a guy, right? In the context of that, in the vacuum, if you're paying a quarterback, you expect him to win games. You expect him to you expect him to win big games. You expect him to win the division. You expect him to win playoff games. You expect him to win a Super Bowl at least once, right? Because Super Bowls are hard to do. Winning a Super Bowl is difficult. So when you're able to get a Super Bowl and validate the contract you paid somebody, because again, Jalen Hurts, he won a Super Bowl. Let me make sure I got this right here. Because he got a 5-year extension. So, like I said, he got a 5-year extension. So 2020, he was drafted. 2021, 2022, 2023. He signed the extension going into his 4th season. So the contract would take effect in 2024. He won the Super Bowl the first year the contract. Well, I don't know how you guys want to slice that because it's an extension. It's an extension, right? So it adds on to the 4 years he had from the rookie deal. Granted, he signed it in 2023 going into the 2023 season. So I guess technically, technically he signed that. Technically, he won the Super Bowl the first year his contract took effect. Am I tripping when I say that? I think I'm pretty accurate when I say that. He won the Super Bowl the first year of his extension. The first year, right? Would you guys agree with that? Would you guys agree with that? Because he was drafted in 2020, so that's year 1. 2021 is year 2. You know what I mean? Now, granted, he got a lot of that money up front, but he basically won that Super Bowl the first year of his new contract. Talk about living up to the deal. Talk about living up to the deal. You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah. Money well spent. Money well spent, you guys. Make sure you guys smash that like button too, right? We have over 180 people in the building. We only got 84 likes. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys smash that like button, you guys. Means a lot to me, goes a long way, helps the channel grow. If you guys haven't already, we got over 180 people in here. We only got 83, 84 likes. Make sure you guys smash that like button, man. I really do appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. All right, let's see here. Yo, Sweet Chin Music. He says Josh Allen just got a huge extension for losing to Mahomes again. I mean, when you put it that way, sounds pretty crazy. But let's be honest about this. Josh Allen has been criminally underpaid over the past few seasons. The past few seasons, Josh Allen has been criminally underpaid. Criminally. But when you put it this way, Sweet Chin Music, it sounds insane. it sounds nuts, actually. But yeah, again, man, just going back to the original topics at hand, right? You know, this Eagles free agency period, I know a lot of people have really been a little nervous about it. And it's made some people a little uncomfortable about the players they've lost, the players the Eagles have lost, right? I totally understand it. I totally understand it. But I think Howie has a plan here. I think there is a plan. There is a plan, you guys. There is definitely a plan here. There's definitely a plan here. I can't sit here and act like I'm nervous because I'm not. I'm really not. I'm not nervous about this offseason. I'm not nervous about this draft. I'm not nervous about it at all. Because we've seen the moves that they've made leading up to this point. And every move we can harken back to it and say, hey, I see why he did that now. I see why he did that now. Perfect example. Perfect example I'm giving you guys. And I may strike a nerve with this one. Trading Hassan Reddick. At the time, we were like, what are you doing? I was one of those people. When the Eagles traded Hassan Reddick, I said, what are you doing? We questioned if Nolan Smith would be ready. Can he live up to expectations? How will we be able to get pressure? How will we be able to close out games without our closer? And Hassan Reddick, how will we be able to get sacks on the quarterback without Hassan Reddick? How? We were nervous about that. And you know what the Eagles did? And remind you, that was the season in 2022. Remember, 2022, we had like 70 plus sacks as a team. Hassan Reddick had like 20 sacks, like 19 sacks, the regular season and the playoffs combined. 2023, Hassan Reddick had double-digit sacks again. It was insane. And in 2024, as a team, the Eagles generated 41 sacks in comparison to the 70-plus sacks from that 2022 season. Let me make sure I got the number right here. I want to make sure I actually do it justice. In 2022, make sure I got this right. In 2022, the Eagles generated 70 sacks. 70 sacks. In 2024, the Eagles generated 41 sacks. That's a 39 sack disparity. 39 sack difference. Ooh, that's a good question, Chaotic. That's a very good question. How many more 3 and outs? That's a good question. Hey, Tiffany, our defense was number 1 in 2022. It just looked different. It just looked a little different. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, our defense was number 1 in 2022. It just looked a little different. It looked a little different. My man Joey, what's good? Joey, what's good? Hope you're doing well, my guy. I was watching your live stream earlier, my guy. Great work, great conversation. Shout out to my man Joey Shakes. But yeah, man, we were nervous about losing Hassan Reddick. We were nervous about losing Javon Hargrave. We were nervous about losing Fletcher Cox. We were nervous about all of that. We all questioned, will Reed Blankenship be able to be somebody we trust on the back end of the defense? Will Nolan Smith take that next step? Will Nakobe Dean take that next step? We questioned a lot. We were nervous about a lot. But all the moves that Howie made leading up to this moment, it all came together. It all came together. So I look at this offseason. Tiffany, very good point. Our secondary was way better this year. But I also want to find out this stat from K.O. Green. I want to find this. If I can find this stat out, I need to find this. I definitely want to find this stat. 3 and outs. Oh, let me see. See if I can find this out. I'm curious about it. Okay. Chaotic says, basically, I want to compare how many of those sacks in 2022 were drive enders. Because it seemed like this year's defense kept teams in purgatory. You know what? This defense, a 39 sack difference, actually. $41.70. No, 29. So you're right. I'm sorry. I said 39 sack difference, didn't I? 29 sack difference. You're right, Lance. Sorry about that. You're right about that. But anyway, I see what you're saying, K.O. Green. Let me see if I can find out some advanced metrics. Let me see. That might be a little specific. I don't know. That is crazy though. That is crazy though, man. Geez, all those fucking sacks is insane. All those sacks is insane, bro. All right, let me see if I can find it. Okay, I think I'm getting close. I think I'm getting close. Okay. Third downs per game, third down conversions per game. I only have the third down conversion percentages. 2024 Eagles were 8th in 2024, and in 2022 Eagles were 12th. Okay, so peep this, right? So in 2022, the Eagles were ranked 12th on defense in third down conversions allowed. So in 2022, the Eagles were ranked 12th in third down defense, 12th. In 2024, the Eagles were ranked 8th in third down defense. 8th. So third down defense got better this year. It was better this year. Third down defense was ranked 8th in 2024. Third down defense was ranked 12th in 2022. And also, like Tiffany says here, there were games where we got a lot of those sacks in bunches on bad teams. Like there were games where we got a lot of those sacks in bunches. KJ says, what's your thoughts on the safeties at the moment? So when it comes to the safeties on our team, right? I like Reed Blankenship. I think Reed Blankenship is perfect. I don't know. His contract situation is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It is going to be interesting to see what Reed Blankenship's contract situation looks like. But I like Reed Blankenship. I'm curious to see what the position battle will look like between Sidney Brown and Lewis Cine. Remember, people forget the Eagles signed Lewis Cine right before the playoffs started. Georgia safety. We signed him. Now, granted, Lewis Cine, he's been battling he's been having a hard time staying healthy in his NFL career. In 2022, played 3 games. 2023, 7 games. 2024, only 1 game. So Lewis Cine has played a grand total of 11 games in his career, his 3 years career. He's a guy that can't stay healthy. But the Eagles signed him to the roster for depth and to compete for the position, obviously. So we don't know what his upside can be because he hasn't been on the football field. I can't even say Lewis Cine is a bad player. I can't say he's a good player because he hasn't been healthy enough for me to form an opinion. But they brought him in hopes that he can probably show them something, right? But Sidney Brown is also had an injury in his career, a significant one. Regardless, though, Sidney's only really had that one injury, the ACL. Whereas Lewis Cine has had like season-ending injury after season-ending injury. I don't know what Lewis Cine has. So I'm really curious to see what that competition is going to look like. On top of that, Tristan McCullum has put on. He's had some moments, some good moments, some not too good moments. But regardless, though, I think the Philadelphia Eagles will draft a safety. I think when all the mock drafts I'm seeing, I'm seeing the Philadelphia Eagles are in prime position to get Malachi Starks. A lot of the draft boards, a lot of the mock drafts that I'm seeing the Philadelphia Eagles has a pretty good chance to get Malachi Starks at 32nd overall if they decide to stay there. Maybe they trade up. Maybe they trade up to make sure they get him just to be safe. But I think the Eagles, they may look at Malachi Starks in that first round if they decide to stay in the first round. They may look at him. I think that's their move. I think that's their move. Because you know what drafting Malachi Starks does? especially if he turns out to be a good player, you may see the Eagles move off of Reed Blankenship. And then Sidney Brown is starting next to Malachi Starks. You feel what I'm saying? Sweet Chin Music says, doesn't sound like a Howie move to me with all those D tackles and edges around. But that's the thing, Sweet Chin Music. I'm glad you said that. And Run Until Done. Thank you, man. I really do appreciate it. That's the thing, Sweet Chin Music. Has anything that's happened this offseason seemed like a Howie move? Sweet Chin, these past 2 years, let's just talk about the past 2 seasons. Has any move that we've seen really felt like a Howie move? I'll wait. I'll wait, brother. And look, I'm not even trying to be smart, man. I'm just trying to really think about it. Like, you know what I mean? What, like, signing Saquon, that wasn't a Howie move, really. Drafting 2 corners back-to-back, that wasn't a Howie move. Paying Zack Baun, that wasn't a Howie-esque move. What else? Giving Saquon the damn extension. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, we know he's going to pay guys early. We know that. But drafting 2 corners back-to-back in the draft, signing Saquon, extending a linebacker, those aren't traditional. Those aren't traditional moves. Sweet Chin Music says, I mean, we don't draft for need, and I would argue safety is a need. Okay. To your point, Sweet Chin Music, I like where your head is going. I like the way you're thinking about it, to your point. But who's to say? Because remember, this is a deep draft for edge, for D-line. This is a deep draft for D-line. But this isn't really a deep draft at safety, right? We all can agree with that. D-line is deeper than safety in this draft class, right? Am I off when I say that? Am I correct? This is a deeper defensive line draft than safety. So if I know hypothetically, if I know I can get a top tier defensive lineman in the second round, but I also know I can't get a top tier safety past that round, maybe at that 32 spot, Malachi Starks is the right move because Malachi Starks is probably the best safety in his draft class. Pac-Man just said there's only like 3 safeties he likes. So because the supply doesn't meet the demand, there's a rarity on the position. So you may see them draft the safety first because they know they can still get a quality D lineman. You may not see them wait to get a safety. You may not see them wait because of the rarity and the scarcity of the position in this draft class. I would argue Malachi Starks not only satisfies the need, but he also can satisfy best player available. But sometimes, to your point, Sweet Chin Music, because I like this discourse we're having. To your point, right? It may lean into drafting for need, but every now and again, best player available and need collide. Every now and again, need and best player available collide. And there's a chance Malachi Starks could be that. Perfect example. Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon was a need, but he also was best player available, some would argue. That was a perfect situation where, you know what I mean? So you have those rare occurrences where your need actually happens to be best player available. I think that happened for Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, for sure. That happened for sure. Cooper DeJean was kind of a luxury pick, right? Because they saw him there and it was like, oh, I mean, we like him. Fuck it. Actually, no. Cooper DeJean was best player available because they already drafted Quinyon. They already had drafted Quinyon Mitchell. So you could argue they didn't need Coop. You can argue that. You can definitely argue that. Cooper DeJean was definitely best player available, whereas though Quinyon Mitchell was need and best player available. Cooper DeJean was definitely a luxury pick. Luxury, for sure. For sure. Yo, chaotic. Chaotic. He said, hell no, Coop was a need. Maddox would have been starting in the slot. I'm just saying, Isaiah Rodgers was already on the team. I'm pretty sure they could have found somebody to play in that slot. Hey, chaotic, maybe you're right. Pac-Man, maybe you're right. Maybe y'all right. Maybe y'all right. I'm tripping. Maybe I'm tripping. But Tone Rich. Okay. Remember this, right? No. Thank you, Tone. Thank you, Tone Rich. Thank you. Because remember when the season was about to start, Quinyon was going to be in the slot, remember? Quinyon was going to be in the slot. Slate and Rodgers were going to be on the outside. Remember that? Quinyon was going to be in the slot. Isaiah Rodgers and Slate were going to be on the outside. So when they drafted Quinyon or when they drafted Cooper, they probably really didn't need Coop, but he was the best player available on their, because these teams got draft boards. So they probably saw Quinyon, or I'm sorry, they probably saw Coop as like, nah, he's the best player available. He on our draft board too. We got to get him. S. Blunt says we would not be champs if Cooper wasn't in that lineup. No. I'm not trying to say that. We're talking about just drafting for need versus. We're talking about drafting for need versus best player available. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to say that Cooper DeJean was like a luxury pick. That's all. It was a luxury pick. I would still argue Cooper DeJean was like a luxury pick. You know what I mean? That was like, hey, fuck it, we here now. Hey, he right there, might as well. You know what I mean? But anyway, we're going to close the show out, man. I really do appreciate the love. I appreciate the support you guys have been giving the show as always, man. We've been going live for over an hour and 40 minutes. You guys have been phenomenal. You guys have been great. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Once again, I'm grateful for all the super chats. I'm grateful for all my members, man. You guys have been great. It's been a fun show. Very, very, very fun show. We got we had a lot of things to talk about, got a lot of things off our chest, and there are plenty moves that are still going to be made. And also, you guys, for anybody who has any concerns, just keep this in mind. Hey, we haven't even gone to the draft yet. We haven't even drafted yet. You feel me? We still got so much left to do. We haven't even made it through the draft yet. So, let's look forward to that, man. Let's look forward to that. You know what I mean? And we appreciate y'all, and we love y'all here at Chalk It Up Sports. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II. You guys have been tuned into another edition of Chalk It Up Sports via the Chalk It Up Network, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the gang.